Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're taking a deep dive into Microsoft Azure and the whole world of cloud computing, really. But we're focusing specifically on you, the beginner developer.
Exactly. Our goal here is to, demystify these concepts. They can sound pretty big and complex. We want to help you understand not just what they are, but maybe more importantly, why they're such a big deal for development today. And we're drawing on some great material here, excerpts from Azure and Cloud Computing for Developers.
Yeah, good source. So if you've ever wondered how developers are building and deploying all these apps, seemingly without stacks of physical servers, well, this deep dive should give you a really solid footing. Might even bust a few myths.
Right. So Microsoft Azure, it's been around since 2010, actually. It's basically this massive global cloud platform from Microsoft. Think data centers all over the world, offering, well, a huge range of services, virtual machines, storage, networking, databases, AI tools, you name it.
Okay, huge range of services. That sounds potentially overwhelming. Can we think of it like a giant virtual toolbox? And what makes it specifically good for someone just starting out?
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah. A virtual toolbox in the sky. Its strength, especially for newcomers, is its flexibility. It supports tons of different languages, frameworks, operating systems, and fundamentally, cloud computing, what Azure is, it's about delivering computing resources like servers or software over the internet. So instead of buying and managing your own hardware, which is costly and complex, you essentially rent these resources from providers like Azure, usually on a pay-as-you-go basis.
As you go. That definitely sounds appealing for cost savings, especially when you're experimenting. But is there a catch, like a common mistake beginners make with that model?
That's a really important point. It is flexible, but the pitfall is sometimes you might forget to turn things off. You spin up a virtual machine to test something, forget about it, and oops, there's a surprise on your bill. So definitely use the Azure pricing calculator beforehand and set up budget alerts. That's crucial.
Okay, a vital tip there. Set budget alerts. So with all these services Azure offers, how does a beginner even know where to start? I hear acronyms like IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. Can you kind of break those down for us?
Absolutely. They just represent different levels of service and control, really. Let's start with IaaS. That's infrastructure as a service. This gives you the basic building blocks: virtual machines, storage, networks. Think of it like renting the land and utilities. You build the house yourself. You manage the operating system, the middleware, everything on infrastructure. Azure Virtual Machines, Azure Blob Storage those are classic IaaS examples. You get a lot of control.
Okay, so IaaS maximum control, managing the virtual hardware yourself. But what if you just want to deploy your code, your app, without messing with OS patches or server setup? Something more hands-off.
That's exactly where Platform as a Service, or PaaS, fits in. PaaS provides the platform, the operating system, databases, web servers are all managed for you by Azure. You just focus on writing and deploying your application code. The real power here, I think, isn't just convenience. It lets a single developer or a small team deploy super fast, like a big operation, because all that underlying stuff is handled. Think Azure App Service for web apps, Azure SQL Database, or Azure Functions. That's serverless.
Service. So the code only runs when it's called.
Precisely. It only consumes resources when actively executing. Very efficient.
Wow, okay. PaaS sounds really powerful for developers then. And the last one, SaaS, software as a service. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, you probably use SaaS every day. It's just software delivered over the internet, fully managed by the provider. You access it through a browser, typically. You don't install anything, manage nothing. Think Microsoft 365 or Google Docs or Salesforce. They often run on cloud platforms like Azure, but for the user, it's just the application itself.
Got it. IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, different levels of abstraction. So for a beginner ready to actually do something in Azure, what's the first door they should walk through, the absolute starting point?
The Azure Portal, definitely. It's the web-based command center for everything. It's designed to be pretty intuitive, even for beginners. And you can sign up for a free Azure account that usually gives you some starting credit, like $200, and free access to popular services for a limited time. For a first real step, I'd say try Azure App Service. It's fantastic for getting a simple web app, maybe Python, Node.js, .NET up and running quickly.
Okay, Azure Portal first. Then maybe deploy a simple web app with Azure App Service. That sounds like a clear path. What about beyond just a basic website? What other services are really useful for a beginner wanting to build something a bit more, but without getting lost?
Good question. After App Service, Azure Functions, the serverless option we mentioned, is great for building event-driven bits of code. Very scalable. For storing data, Azure SQL Database is a managed relational database, takes away a lot of the admin headache. And maybe look at Azure DevOps later on. It helps with managing your code and automating the deployment process, CI/CD pipelines.
Right? CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery, automating the whole process.
Exactly. Makes life much easier once you get the hang of it.
Okay, so pulling this all together for you listening, Azure's, well, its relative ease of use, the way it scales, how it connects with tools developers already use, it really does seem like a solid platform for someone starting out in development.
Absolutely. And the fact that you can start free, play around in the portal, deploy a real web app or function pretty easily, it means you can pick up these valuable cloud skills relatively quickly, skills that are, frankly, in very high demand.
Yeah, and remember, learning this stuff isn't just about code deployment. It's bigger than that. It's really about understanding this fundamental shift in how technology works, how it's delivered, how it scales up and down.
Which, leads to an interesting thought. As you get comfortable building and deploying in the cloud using these foundational services, how might that empower you? Not just to write code, but maybe to innovate using more advanced things like integrating AI or machine learning, which Azure also makes surprisingly accessible, or even exploring completely new ways of building applications that weren't really feasible before. Something to think about.